right, welcome back to Beyond the Sups. I am very excited for today's guest. Today we have Oliver Catlin in the studio with us. Oliver is the co-founder and the president of the BSCG organization. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the BSCG organization and the role they play within our industry, I am very excited to get, a bunch of information out there to you guys that are listening. So the BSCG organization is the Banned Substance Control Group. So Oliver, I'm ready to just dive right in. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time to come up here today.
Thank you.
To hop on, do this with us, meet with the team. We're stoked to get a little more acclimated and integrated into the BSCG process. I know that we already have a couple of brands that we work together on, so I'm excited for this. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here. It's a beautiful place you got building over here. I like it.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. We're coming a long way. Very different from even a year ago. So it's picking up like crazy.
Looks like a lot of work went into it. So
yeah,
happy to be here, happy to see it, and happy to be chatting about what we do. So
absolutely, yeah. You'll have to come back in a couple of months when everything is all spick and span.
Will do. Done.
So let's just kind of go ahead and jump right into it. First and foremost, we just kind of had a quick conversation before we started this. So you started the BSCG organization with a handful of other people about 15 years ago, correct?
I did. It was, there wasn't anything like what we do in the realm of banned substance certification before we helped start this industry 16 years ago. So it was exciting to be a part of creating something new. Definitely needed to be done in the dietary supplement industry. It was kind of the Wild West of ingredients and all kinds of stuff. I started the business with my father, Dr. Don Catlin, who's our U.S. sport drug testing guru, did it for years, testing for the NCAA, the NFL, Olympics, and others. And so that's where I cut my teeth as well. I spent 3 years doing administration for the UCLA Olympic Lab, testing for athletes and dealing with that side of the equation. And we had dealt with so many, positive drug tests that had come from dietary supplement use, but without something like third-party certification to verify products in advance, there just wasn't the ability for athletes to really know that what they were taking was safe for them to take. And there wasn't a way for brands to distinguish themselves either in the industry, the ones that really wanted to make their mark and show that they were doing it right. So it was exciting to create BSCG, 16 years ago. I can't believe it's that long.
Yeah.
But we really enjoy doing what we do and working with our great clients and supporting their downstream consumers and the athletes that really rely on supplements to for their competition and want to make sure they're clean at the end of the day. So
no, that's amazing. That's what I was going to kind of like lead into, is just kind of like how this all came together, how it got started. Were you a dietary supplement user as well, like but preliminary to starting BSCG? What kind of role did like dietary supplements, outside obviously the testing factor that you had done, but just in general as well, had they been a part of your life before that time as well?
Interestingly, that's where my father and I really cut our teeth in the realm of sport drug testing. But our other partner, Ryan Connolly, who's an attorney these days, his father ran several supplement brands, and so he recognized that need from the brand standpoint. And so we had a fun little team that we could put together, some from the supplement side and some from the sport drug testing side, and we put it together in a nice little picture called Banned Substances Control Group. So
yeah, no, I love it. So now just the wheels are turning, right? So being in this industry and with this organization for that extended period of time, I mean, how has this kind of like looked for you over the past 16 years with the way the industry has changed where the industry was back then when it got started? I mean,
sure.
How crazy has that been for you to see like where we are today from when you first started with BSCG?
It's really been an interesting metamorphosis. I can remember, the first conference I went to was at the Olympia, and, we were sitting there with our table and introducing ourselves to people, and we were getting like dirty looks. People didn't understand why we were there. And they're like, banned substances? You're doing testing for banned substances? We're like, yes, we really are. And it was a foreign concept really back then. And it was wasn't something that the industry was used to. I mean, these were the days where, pro hormones were still actively sold and stuff in the industry. And so, we had to not only introduce, the concept, but the reason why we were doing it at the end of the day. And it's fun, to be here 16 years later, where people are actively seeking this certification and the quality that it adds. It's a mark of pride. It's something they want to see, and that consumers want to see, and it's something that brands want to be a part of. So it's been a fun ride from those days, where you get your questionable looks.
Yeah.
And now we're really part of the industry and have made our mark and hope to continue to as we grow. So
yeah, I mean that's got to feel like good. Like now more than ever, we see, I'm definitely getting more inquiries from some of my customers about BSCG, third-party testing in general. So I mean, to kind of make that stamp within the industry at the time that you did, when there wasn't that high of a demand for it, to gut it out, grind it out for as long as you guys have, to now be in an era where I think all of that is becoming a little more relevant on the brand side, primarily because of social media, technology, things like that. People just want to know more about like the supplements that they're taking. So I mean, that's got to be like a nice little thing for you guys to kind of see, or how has that felt to kind of see the demand for more transparency over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an exciting ride. It's we got to build an industry, not just a business,
right? And
you rarely get to do that in today's day and age. And when we started alongside NSF. Those were the two programs in the game, and now there's 5 total in the world that do what we do. So it's still a very unique industry. And it's growing daily. These days with COVID in place, consumers are paying a lot more attention to their own products, doing their own research, and these types of quality seals and the transparency that they really provide to brands really are starting to mean something to the downstream consumers. It was one thing, we went through a period where it might be important to a brand, but the end consumers who we're all in this industry for, and to really see consumers and athletes driving that demand in today's day and age and really asking for what we do is a great place to be. It's an exciting transition from where we were 15 years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been with Leaf close to 4.5 years now, right? So that's a little bit of a shorter time frame, but even what I've been able to see over the past couple of years, from when I first started to where the industry now, it's kind of been like a breath of fresh air. You're getting more of that transparency. You're getting more questions asked. You're getting more, quality SOPs and systems in place. So, I definitely think an organization like you guys is just like a huge push to continue pushing this industry in the right direction, pushing that envelope on the quality side and getting this out of kind of like a gray market area. Because even today, we still kind of have that stigma from stuff that's kind of been, going on.
Sure. I mean, well, it's taken a while for quality to really become a driver, and it's exciting to be here at Leaf with the commitment that you guys have to quality, and it shows in what you do. But, it's taken a while for that to really take hold in the industry.
Yeah.
It used to be price driven and so forth. And it's, price doesn't always mean quality. Rarely does it, It's hard to be the lowest priced, service with really a dedication to quality and to transparency in the process. And it's, that's really what we strive for a lot in our realm, is transparency. It's certification is one thing, but if you aren't able to, communicate what you're really doing and what's really going into it at the end of the day, so that the end consumer can understand, okay, it's a seal, but what does it really mean?
Right.
So we spend a lot of time really trying to be open and transparent, so that you can not only see a seal, but you can touch and feel what that seal means.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of dig into that process a little bit. So like when a customer is looking at dietary supplements to purchase, doing their due diligence, doing research on different brands, items, and things like that, what does it really look like when they pick up that product that does have that BSCG certification? Let's kind of dig into the process before a brand is allowed to put that seal on there, if that's okay.
Sure. Well, I mean, we started as a banned substance certification provider. That was our sort of foundation, but we've grown into being a full service third-party certification provider. So now we have our certified quality program that works on label verification and contaminant testing. We have a certified GMP program that audits facilities for compliance. We recently started a certified CBD program, one of a kind in that regard, trying to really add some understanding to that industry, and more importantly, an underlying foundation of quality. It's one of the more exciting industries we've seen in and around the natural product realm in years, but it's also come with a lot of quality control questions and questions about the underlying product to begin with. So, that's what our picture looks like today in general. But even, in the foundational certification, certified drug-free in the banned substance space, a lot of people think that it's just banned substance testing, and it's far from that. There's a lot more that goes into it, in general. That we start with an initial review process that looks at, the ingredients. It does a toxicology evaluation on the overall formula, especially important when it comes to energy products, to make sure you're not dealing with rocket fuel. We then go into compliance. We look at labels. A lot of people forget about labels. I always say that your label is sort of the window into the product itself.
Absolutely.
And so, we really try to work with our clients to make sure their labels are compliant, that everything's where it should be, that it's formatted properly. One of the things that's sort of forgotten in this space sometimes. We look at a GMP overall compliance review, looking at how the actual quality control testing is happening from, starting with supplier verification process through your raw materials all the way to your finished product, and how you're making sure that your finished product is what it should be and doesn't have contaminants and so forth in there. So, all that's going into banned substance certification. And then, of course, there's the nuts and bolts of testing, for the banned substances in our world. And it's, we started with a focus on banned substances in sport. That still remains our primary focus. We're industry leaders in that regard. We cover 276 drugs banned in sport, which is the majority of the WADA prohibited list. That prohibited list is shared with other sporting groups. There's some little tweaks between different groups that ban certain things where others don't. But that's that side of the equation. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we realized that we weren't just trying to certify products for athletes.
Right.
And we looked at what the FDA was finding in their, testing of dietary supplements and their contaminated supplements. And we realized that there was a whole realm of substances that weren't being covered by programs like ours. So we were the first ones in the world to add, we cover 220 today, but other prescription, over-the-counter, and illicit drugs to our menu. So our whole menu today is 496 drugs, offers the most robust, protection to not only athletes, but also end consumers, to keep those types of pharmaceutical contaminants out of products. So.
Yeah, that's always been huge for me, is just kind of like, for me personally, it's always been about protecting that end consumer, right? The person who's physically taking the product, because without them, none of us have any business.
Sure. I mean, it's not just, we started this protecting, athletes from positive drug tests, but quickly learned that, athletes aren't the ones that really make a program like ours go. It's
right.
And there's, we're all sort of athletes in some way, shape, or form, or at least hopefully. People are out there working out, putting stuff in their bodies to maximize their performance and potential. And, in today's day and age, with, health being the new wellness, people are looking for wellness supplements and all kinds of things, in that equation. And there's always a potential for contamination to get into any product. And
absolutely. So, I mean, for me, it's even huge, especially for our police officers, firefighters, things like that, right? So I come from working inside of a nutrition store selling dietary supplements directly to customers. So, I mean, being able to have that kind of confidence for, a firefighter, a doctor, a nurse, a police officer, anybody who may be in jeopardy for, not only putting their life on the line, but also being subject to drug testing as well. I mean, those guys work out like crazy.
Oh yeah.
And the women as well. So I mean,
don't forget the military.
Yeah, exactly. So military as well. They're always looking for a hard hitting pre-workout. That's kind of like where I was always kind of dealing with them, because they're sleep deprived, they don't get a lot of rest. So when they are training, like, they want to make sure that they're hitting it and performing the best that they can. So the fact that an organization like yours exists to not only cover like the collegiate athlete, professional athletes, but also, men and women of the military as well, to be able to find products that are, now we're kind of seeing that evolution into health, wellness, performance, versus just how much energy, how much caffeine is it going to hit me with.
Absolutely. I mean, those are probably the most important segments of our consumers. Those are the ones that really have their careers on their line.
Yeah.
And athletes are out there, and they're often helping to, represent products and so forth. But, the bulk of the users are general consumers, which spans, those areas of first responders and military officers and so forth. So it's fun to do what we do and add that extra protection for all of those different groups, and really, be able to work with great brands to create products that all of those types of people can trust.
Yeah, and so to kind of dig in a little bit more around the process as well, you guys kind of do it where either the manufacturer or the brand itself, before they're allowed to release the product, we send a couple of units to your guys' facility directly to test those products. So that's and that happens on every single batch number every time a product is ordered.
It does, and that's the key element. It's not everyone in our industry tests every single batch and really adds that solid protection, to the end consumer. But our goal is, if you pick up the package, you check your lot number, and that thing should be certified, so that you can make sure that representative sample that you're actually taking has been tested and is secured. So.
Yeah, and then for you guys listening, the lot number should be on the bottom of every single bottle of any dietary supplement that you purchase. But for those that are BSCG certified, a batch is going to be each time a brand places a purchase order with a contract manufacturer for, 2,500 units, 5,000, 10,000, so on and so forth. Every batch associated to that is from different orders. So it's not just like, oh, we test once a year. Right. So I kind of want to, iron that out as well. This is every single time a product is run at a manufacturing site, you guys do the testing around that product that comes off the packaging line.
Absolutely. That's the key to finished product certification, is really making sure that that combination of raw materials that's gone through that particular filling process has been protected at the end of the day. It's the two primary areas that you can get contamination. It used to be, a lot more. We'd see it through manufacturing when prohormones and SARMs and other things like that were in the facilities. These days, it tends to be more in the raw material realm, where raw materials that may be made in other countries, where pharmaceuticals are made side by side, can sneak into the raw materials and ultimately into your product. So the best way to make sure you're protected is to make sure that the actual batch that you're using has been tested.
Absolutely. So this kind of leads into the next question as well. What do you think really differentiates, BSCG from other certifying bodies?
Well, I talked a little bit about it before, but we've really been dedicated to building out our testing menu, not just for athlete protection, but also for general consumer protection. And it's that's the way we want to continue, to grow. We've always prided ourselves on being leaders from the scientific standpoint of what we do. And we try to stay at the forefront of the testing menus. We add things constantly to our testing menu as they're added to the water prohibited list or other lists. We're adding those to our testing menu. And we're looking for issues that are out there as well, and adding new drugs on the other side of the equation as well. But, it's also, we go above and beyond just certifying products. We're part of a larger industry as well. And so, part of what I like to do is look at, issues that get into our industry as a whole and try to be a little bit proactive as far as dealing with them. We've seen this development of SARMs come into our industry, and thankfully those are slowly going by the wayside. Today, we're having some more issues with pharmaceutical nootropics that are in the industry, and, about half of the nootropic ingredients that have become popular, in products are really pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
And that harms the industry as well. They don't, we're not supposed to be having natural products and so forth competing with actual drugs in our industry. And so, we try to get ahead of those types of things and work with industry groups and others to try to make our mark and deal with those types of larger concerns as well.
Yeah, racetames were a big one over the past couple of years. Your aniracetam, piracetam, things like that, any type of metabolite that came from it as well, like even No-Pept, which I was a huge fan of No-Pept, but then,
I think that one's the number one, it's still like one of the number one selling nootropics on the market. And that really makes my point.
Yeah.
That was developed in Eastern Europe as a pharmaceutical,
correct,
years ago. And that's where many of the racetams came from as well. Some things like sulbutamine that was developed in 1960 in Japan to treat beriberi disease. So, and it's a lot of those things were really developed to treat cognition, but particularly in older people to treat, damaged or injured brains and stuff like that. They weren't designed, as many of the natural product ingredients are for the purpose that they're really, meant to have in dietary supplements. From a dosing standpoint, they weren't designed to be mixed. They weren't designed to be in these sort of combined formulas and stuff. So, that's why we try to do what we do to give the natural products and the legitimate products space to grow and build in this industry and not the drugs.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see the industry kind of like build around that. We're seeing like a lot more natural ingredients, natural sweeteners, flavors, and everything like that kind of come into the mix. So I'm a huge fan of that. Do I like to try as much as I can, as long as it's like nothing crazy, of course. But my little take on like what kind of makes you guys different, I'd like to dig into a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Sure, please.
For me, it's going to be customer service and email response. And so, Lauren, who's in here, not on camera as well, has been fantastic. I mean, I've tried to work with other certifying bodies, and getting an email back was like pulling teeth. Like, it was crazy. So I know that you and I are working with a customer right now, going through this process, and we're in time crunches and things like that. So, I mean, the responsiveness, first and foremost.
That's great to hear. I mean, we have great people, and we really try to be as responsive as we can be to customers. That's what drives our business, and it's you need that. Certification shouldn't be a frustrating process for a client. It needs to be something that they can feel and that they can enjoy and that they can see is becoming a meaningful part of their quality control. So that's really what we strive for.
Yeah, because I mean, personally, like if, maybe a year and a half ago, when I wasn't really fully familiar with you guys, whenever a client would reach out to me to go to a certified like testing body, I would be like, oh God. Please don't, because it was that big of a headache. Like, it was, you're not getting emails back. You're not, 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. The cost was astronomical, and it just made it so painful. But now you guys have kind of turned that please God don't into let me introduce you to this organization and let's do this. So that's huge for me personally.
Yeah, I mean that's from the start we've really tried to be an accessible business. When we started 15 years ago, we started with a program that was $1,500 to join and $495 per sample to test, versus some of our competitors it was $300,000 to join a program. And it was we're here for the whole industry, small brands, brands, large brands. And, if you want to represent yourself as different and distinguish your products in the industry, we want to be here for you. And it's, every customer matters to us. So
yeah, and I think that's another differentiating factor is like how hands-on you guys are with the brands, right? With the customer, with the person trying to go through your guys' certification program. Again, I've had some instances where they wanted no interaction, everything was handled or tried to be handled through the contract manufacturer, where now you're kind of playing that middleman, right? Going back to the brand, going back to the certifying, and it's kind of like ping pong, as to where if I wanted to loop you guys in directly with the customer, you have welcomed that with open arms, which makes my life a lot easier. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
But then I also think that it makes your guys' life a little bit easier as well, because now you have that direct communication and correspondence with what the brand is actually trying to achieve, nothing kind of getting lost in translation. So I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle, to where, the more people that want to come forward and add this certification, to their brand, to their products, it's, now it's kind of like a breath of fresh air for myself to be like, cool, let's do it. Let's make it happen. And then myself wanting to make that push with the brands that I work with, as well as, you guys should do it. Let's look into it. Let's get a preliminary conversation going. To kind of make that happen.
At the end of the day, quality control comes as a team in our world. Too often brands, I think, are reliant on contract manufacturers and forget about their own responsibilities when it comes to quality. And that's something we try to remind them of. That's something that's refreshing to see out of Leaf, is really a commitment to, not only the quality themselves in the manufacturing facility and what they do, but in trying to teach that same responsibility their brands, and not only teach it, but give brands the tools to really work through their own compliance process. Some of the SOPs and stuff that you guys offer to the brands directly, and the support that you give in that process is really great to see from a contract manufacturer as well.
Yeah, we try to let people know, like, we're going to do as much as humanly possible, but at the end of the day, your name is on that product, right? Like, the customer's name is on that label. Their address is on that label, and they are held to a standard that I think a lot of them do not realize.
Right.
It's crazy.
If there's a problem with the product, it's not the manufacturer that they come to or the certification provider, it's the brand.
Yeah.
And so, you really have to take ownership from that from the get-go. And, the brands that are more successful in today's day are the ones that really focus on that and make that a foundation of what they do.
Yeah, and while I think social media has led to a lot of transparency, I think that it's also been like a one step forward, two steps back, because now you have all of these people with social media followings that think, I can just start my own dietary supplement company, and then all the responsibility is on the manufacturer. When in reality, it's not. Like, your name is on that product. This is your business. You should want to be, as knowledgeable as you possibly can around what owning that label and that website really means. So that kind of leads into my next question. Do you guys have but between the website or any type of like PDFs or quick little things for people to look at to get more information about what BSCG is, what they stand for, and just some things that they can look into when they are kind of like figuring out jumping into starting a dietary supplement company, as well as what they really should be looking for when it comes to contract manufacturing?
Sure. I mean, it's, as far as our resources, we try to make all of our programs, understandable with sort of quick shots, so you can look and see what's actually incorporated in each of our different certifications. When it comes to banned substance certification, we have a comparison chart. Nobody else has built that in the industry, so you can really see, item by item as far as what goes into, banned substance certification, how we compare with others in the world. And I think that's an important part of letting the consumer know, what is really going on. It's one thing to say, that you're a transparent brand. It's another to prove it.
Right.
And, certification is what proves it. And if you're not transparent as a certification provider, then, you're not giving that extra set of tools to the consumer to really understand how that brand has set themselves apart. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge piece for me, is that like whenever I am engaging with like a potential partner, Like that's how we kind of look at it when we are kind of discussing customers, is like, this is a partnership. There's a lot that goes into it. This is not just a one-off business transaction that we are trying to have. We're trying to help create and build something sustainable, something with longevity, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I always, whenever I am competing for business and things like that, like I kind of lead with, information and some questions as well that they should be asking their other contract manufacturer right out of the gate. So, I mean, do you have any like big talking points there about like just some quick questions that a brand or even the customer should be asking the brand, or a brand asking their manufacturer?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of the obvious things like looking for certifications and looking to see for third parties as far as, is your facility GMP certified, things like that. But it goes above and beyond that too. It's, a certification and having that stamp of approval is one thing. That means you've met the checklist. Mm-hmm. What we like to say, we go above and beyond the checklist, and that's something that I see out of Leaf as well. Is Leaf really strives to work with, not just big customers, but any customers. You guys are there to help, small manufacturers and small brands, come online and understand the industry. As I said, give them the tools to really work through GMP compliance and to really, create that ultimate foundation for the brand. And then, there's, you go above and beyond as well as far as helping to support them and help them, through the overall total package and process, which I think is key for a manufacturer. Those are certainly some elements that I think I appreciate out of what Leaf does.
That's huge. Yeah. Cause I mean, like, I've been in a few situations before where, I'm like, are they GMP certified? Right. And they say yes. And I'm like, cool. Well, did they send you their certification? Like with their registration number, the certifying body and everything like that. And then I get hit with some no's. So, always, ask to authenticate and substantiate that type of certification being around GMP, which is good manufacturing practices. So that's one of the things that we do whenever clients ask, like, hey, can you just prove that you are? Well, it's like, hey, you can actually go onto the NSF website, type our name in, and yeah, we'll pop right up. But here is also a PDF copy of our GMP certification as well.
And you can go beyond that too. I mean, don't be afraid to ask for SOPs on key elements of what you do. Supplier qualification is key. Ask for a supplier qualification SOP to actually see how the manufacturer is doing it. And I did a presentation recently for APA, and in it I noted the primary things that the FDA is finding in audits are a lack of finished product specifications, which is amazing to me. Problems with the batch manufacturing records. So maybe ask to see a sample of a batch manufacturing record so you can understand how that product's being put together. And then the third one was insufficient written SOPs. So, ask for certain key SOPs. And if you're a brand owner, make sure you've got your own SOPs. You've got to have your own SOPs, not just rely on good manufacturers like Leaf to have theirs. That's the responsibility is not only on the manufacturer but also on the brand, and that's why I love what you guys do as far as giving samples of SOPs, written SOPs to your clients for adverse event reporting and things like that.
Yeah, I think that you'd love our new team member Thon. She is helping take like our finished product specifications to a completely different level. So I'm super excited about that. She ran a quality department where she comes from. Now she's over here with us and just kind of making that integration between quality and product development as well. Mm-hmm. So she's playing a huge role, and I'm very excited for like what she's doing, and then just even more information that we're going to be able to present to our customers because of the role that she's playing in that.
Yeah, it's manufacturing, it's a package,
yeah.
And it's a relationship as well, and building that from the beginning is important.
Yeah, it's huge because now, like I said, it can sometimes be one step forward, two steps backward with social media. But now we're coming into some great people that have kind of made it through the mud, from the very beginning, that are now working with us and like helping them create businesses and companies that now could potentially be generational handoffs to like their kids.
Sure.
And things like that. And that's what I think is huge for us, is like, we have a great family that we work with who's based out of Florida, who has 5 kids. And so they started very, very small. Now they're at this level where they are in Walmart, they're in Target, and we're kind of helping them build and create something that can now, if any one of those kids wants to rise up through the ranks, take over, or pursue their own ventures, like being able to create something like that, I think is amazing. And that's what we're trying to replicate with a lot of people that we work with.
And that's one of the fun things that's I've gotten to do. It's my father was the guru of sport drug testing in the U.S., and I've gotten to kind of recreate that in the dietary supplement realm and take that gold standard of testing and really apply it to what we do in the supplement realm. So it's been an exciting process.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that process looked like for him.
An interesting ride,
But you said you did that as well for 3 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got, I got to help build Major League Baseball's program back when they had no sport drug testing program. I was there alongside working on building out the minor league program, which was their sort of test case. So, having those types of experiences, to lend to product certification is fantastic.
Yeah. So I know that we've kind of touched on it throughout this entire episode, but then to also just kind of bring it to its own phase now in this conversation, why a consumer should be looking for that BSCG logo on the dietary supplements that they purchase.
Well, I mean, it means that you've gone through a total, compliance and quality control and testing process. And it's that sort of stamp of approval that can really communicate that to the end consumer. It's one thing to talk about transparency, as I said earlier, but it's another to really prove it and demonstrate it. And it's hard for brands to do that themselves. You can say you're doing all the quality control, but it's, has it been proven? Has it been demonstrated? And has it been independently verified is more important, and that's really what we do in all of our different programs, is independently verify that the brands are doing what they should.
So this is a big one for me, and I'm curious to get your take on this, because it has become so ridiculous now that I am seeing on every single product that pops up, third-party tested.
Right.
Third-party tested. But they never substantiate that, because third-party tested is like something that we do for micros, right? Like on the finished product. So when a brand kind of takes that and then spins it into a third-party test without any type of analytical results on that product, I personally don't substantiate it as third-party tested.
I mean, that's the other thing too that we have to do as I think in industry and third-party certification, is show those results to our customers too, and it's not everybody's willing to do that. And when it comes to third-party testing and so forth, it's okay, are you doing your own internal testing? Did you test it 10 times to get it to pass? What levels are you testing at? And if you don't document that and you aren't willing to show that, then you have to start questioning that as a whole. And so, that's what we do, is apply that consistent process to where those questions don't need to be asked.
Yeah, so again, I think that also kind of leads into why you should look for that logo on your product to substantiate those third-party tested claims. Because say you have something like a pre-workout where they're doing one analytical test per batch for like B12. Mm-hmm. And then they're trying to say, third-party tested. It's
right.
like, come on, like that's...
Or you third-party tested, or you're just doing micro testing and nothing else,
Right.
And it's we try to be a little bit more robust than that in what we do.
That's the part that like drives me crazy, because I mean, for me, it kind of like it waters down like an industry that like I truly love, and an industry that I think can really help people, like when it is done correctly. So, that's why I'm glad that like we could just quickly isolate that little question on like why you should look for that BSCG certification. Mm-hmm. Again, it's been a great process. Lauren, keep shouting you out. Thank you for what you do.
As you should.
So all of that kind of being said, Before we wrap up, like where do we see BSCG kind of moving into the future? You guys have now been here for 16 years. I'm sure that you have a roadmap of what the next, 5-10 years look like for you guys. So, I mean, from your standpoint, not only as an organization, but where do you also kind of see the industry more so shifting into as well?
Well, we try to be a really creative third-party certification provider and find new things and new areas to get into and new ways to package our programs together and that sort of thing. So I think, as our industry slowly starts to mature, which I think it's doing finally, there's room for creativity, not just a checklist style approach. And at the end of the day, we have to meet our customers' needs and our brands and manufacturers' needs and be able to package and put programs together in a way that really it can be effective for what they want, while still keeping ourselves within our own requirements and making sure that there's consistency in that as well. So I mean, that's been one exciting part of our certified CBD program, which is one of a kind in the industry. It's a complicated world to get into, but we really wanted to be the first to offer banned substance protection in our approach to that industry. It's got plenty of quality control issues to address, and we wanted to be the first at the table to do that and to help create trustworthy products in that industry as well. So that's just an example of what we try to do.
Yeah, that's because that's another side of the industry that I actually do like. I like CBD. I like CBD when it's done right. I've personally taken CBD products, and I think that there is tons and tons of benefits that it can provide. But then when you get into the other side of it, of where did it really come from? What farm did it come from? How was it processed? How was it manufactured? What's the standardization ratio extract of that material? Is it 10% active? So when you say 20 milligrams of CBD on the label, is it 20 active milligrams per serving, or is it 2 milligrams of active CBD per serving? That's great to hear, because I want CBD to be in the light that it deserves to be in. But just, over the past year and a half, it's been like that wild west factor of,
if you don't trust the quality of the product, and there's plenty of reason not to, since it comes from cannabis, and it's so if you don't build that trustworthy product at the end of the day and make sure, you hit some of the key elements. We verify hemp sourcing. We look at all those types of elements. We do cannabinoid profile testing. We screen for all the banned substances, in the list I mentioned earlier. We came up with our own approach to protecting people from THC. So we have a daily dose threshold for THC in our program to make sure that those other categories of athletes and military and others can approach that category in these types of products without concern and with confidence for what they really are.
Yeah, and I mean, especially we've brought it up on this podcast kind of time and time again, but it's still relevant, right? The amount of mental health issues that we have kind of seen come to life during COVID has been substantial. You have people feeling lonelier than ever, more isolated than ever, more stressed, anxious, worried about the future. When is this thing going to run its course? When can I see my family and friends again, and things like that? So seeing that spike, when I kind of look at CBD as potentially being an X factor in those types of situations, I've seen what it does for myself. I've seen what it does for other people. And I just want to make sure that we can, push that into industry wide, to where any customer that does pick up a CBD product knows that they're getting something that is healthy to ingest and consume.
Sure. That's part of it. It's CBD can help with all that, by the way. If you listen to all the claims, it can help with anything.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to claims, if you don't start with a consistent product, so you can do consistent research, if you can't have a consistent product and good solid quality control, how do you even get into a clinical study to show any of that stuff? And I think that's one of the main points for the industry today, and what they're asking for is they're asking for consistency in the approach to testing for these things. So, we're working with some of the industry groups to try to create consistent approaches to third-party certification, even as we offer our own, because I think that's an important part of creating that foundation, not just for a brand, but for the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And so all of that being said, as we wrap up, what is the best way for somebody who is interested in pursuing the BSCG certification to get in contact with you guys?
Sure. I mean, it's through our website. info@bscg.org is our email address. They, of course, can get through Lauren and talk to her as well. You can contact us on social media or wherever. But, our website's the place to start with all that.
Yeah, and so we'll definitely keep kind of pushing the envelope and putting your guys' name out there more and more with like the people that we interact with as well.
Certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been great. It's been super informative, and I definitely want to, keep in contact because I love learning as much as I can on the regulatory and quality side to just keep extending that information to the people that we work with.
Well, we love having relationships with manufacturers like Leaf that do it the right way. It makes our job easier, and ultimately it makes the products that we certify better as well. So certainly grateful for that.
No, I appreciate the kind words. That's huge. We love what we do here. So
it shows.
Well, Oliver, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come out today. Lauren, you as well. I know that you're not in front of the camera, but you're still here meeting with the team and everything like that. So we definitely appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for agreeing to do this as well. I'm excited to get this information out, to people that, maybe haven't consumed dietary supplements for these specific reasons, but now they're going to have some resources to look into products with your guys' certifications to take that step into health, wellness, and longevity. So much appreciated.
Absolutely. We're happy to be a resource in that regard and happy to have relationships with Leaf and others like we do. So
thank you.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
That all being said, thank you guys for tuning in and checking out this episode of Beyond the Sups.